As for Yazeed killing Al-Hussein, Yazeed did not kill Al-Hussein. There's no evidence historically that he ordered the killing of Al-Hussein. That was an independent act made by the field commander. Yeah, again, so Yazeed himself, he did not make that order. Are the soldiers and the field commanders, are they at fault? Yes, they are at fault. Is it worthy of takfir? Al-Hussein radwanullahi alayhi is not a prophet, so no, I can't come and say those that murdered him would immediately be a kafir. Is it a great sin? Yes, murder is a great sin, of course, without a doubt. But to ask me to make takfir on a person because of murder, sorry, the Quran and the Sunnah both say otherwise. Hassan is asking, he sent the army though. He sent the army to squish any rebellion. Yeah, I mean, there was a rebellion. So yeah, I mean, anyone in power is going to send an army. But does that necessitate? It means kill. Tamam. And then there's another argument that could be brought to the table. The famous hadith. من خرج عليكم وأمركم تحت يد رجل واحد فاقتلوه كائنا من كان. Could it be argued that false ijtihad or ta'wil or understanding was done of this that caused them to that? In all cases, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal between them. We, without a doubt, state and affirm that there was no right for any human to kill Sayyidina al-Hussein radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. No right. No right. From that moment, even till today, there's no right for anyone to lay a hand on him. Detail, the guy was, at worst, a lousy ruler. And he panicked when people revolted and made a few bad judgments. To say he was bad, I don't think we have enough historical context to make that claim. To say he was good, we don't have enough historical context to make that claim. Did he mess up at times? Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So what do we do? We don't do anything with it. There's no point to even feud about it. That was like 1,000 years ago, people. Like, we need to get on with our lives and actually focus on our akhirah. Hassan, there was no evidence that he drank or evidence that he committed adultery. On the contrary, Imam al-Hussein's brother, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, another son of Sayyidina Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was his mufti. He says none of that is true. So it becomes really difficult to argue with that claim. Naam. Allah al-Musta'an.
Bin Haji, when Muawiyah passed on, did he follow the correct procedure in appointing Yazeed as his heir? Or should he have had some kind of shura council or something, maybe to vote in the next Khalifa?
There's no system in the Quran and Sunnah that says you have to go one way or the other. So whether the Khalifa picks someone, or he gives the people allowance to go and figure it out on their own, or he makes a committee and they choose after he's gone, the Quran leaves that to for the people to decide, right? They have the decision, they can make that call. And once it is said and done, everyone is to adhere and obey. It's that simple. So whatever mechanism is.
So they didn't want to follow he didn't want to follow the Sunnah of the Rashidun, because I mean, they had some kind of committee, right, to vote in Uthman, if I'm not mistaken, and Umar as well.
Actually, the Khulafa al-Rashidun, they pretty much, it's a very colorful. It's not really selecting or giving it to the people. So you have one time where it's like, well, let's ask everyone's opinion, right? Other time it's not. It's more like hand it over. So this notion that they followed one system was not really a thing. So whichever way is completely allowed in Islam, as long as everyone's going to be fair and just. So.
Right, but none of them actually made it hereditary. I mean, Umar didn't give it to his son. Uthman didn't give it to his son. Abu Bakr didn't give it to his son. But Muawiyah gave it to his son. And that turned out to be less than optimal, to put it lightly, right?
I mean, sure, people could argue this way or that way, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that would say this. It has to be this way or that way. So to come and necessitate that's by necessity bad, you won't be able to do that Islamically. On the contrary, وَوَرِثَ دَاوُودَ سُلَيْمَانَ, right? So it's not one way. It could be any way. The whole point, what matters, is justice. Look, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he's probably the best of the Umayyads, right? So the notion that it has to be this way or that way, that's not a thing. I could deduce both ways in the Quran, because the Quran and the Sunnah did not specify a certain system.
Dawood and Sulaiman were both Nabis. Hence, for Sulaiman to inherit his father's kingdom, it could be on the strength of his revelation and wisdom. Whereas Yazeed, so as I said, is less than optimal, right? Whatever you think he was less than optimal. So I don't know, man. Maybe it wasn't such a great decision.
I didn't say he was good. I just said that there's nothing Islamically that would stop Yazeed from being the person next in power. Not to mention, if all of his father's helpers, wazirs, generals were at his command as they were at his father, it does make sense. It does make sense that someone in that household would pick up. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to ask you actually what you meant by who is the Ahmed who considered him a kafir.
I think Sheikh Manhaji, isn't Imam Ahmad's position on Yazeed that he's not a believer?
I think there's more than one qawl from Imam Ahmad.
Well, in one of them, because I remember reading it, in that he had mentioned that he is not a believer. I'll try to find it.
Yeah, I think he has more than one riwayah يعني from Imam Ahmad يعني when it comes to him. And I see Hassan in the chat, he's saying like يعني he did things irrationally. Yes, of course he did. No one's saying that he didn't. People challenged him and he went crazy with things. Although historically I might say there's another problem on the ground too. And that was, well, that's just called, like their form of ISIS. What I mean was, you had the Khawarij were terrorizing the Muslims. You know what they did to some of the Sahaba, right? Like one of the Sahaba, he was traveling, I forget who it was, Ibn al-Azraq? Allah, I forget his name. But he was traveling from Mecca to Baghdad with his wife. And they stopped him and they said, are you with Ali and Muawiyah and the thing? And he was like, yo, they're long gone. Like, what's happening? And his wife was pregnant. She was like in her 6th month. So they cut open her stomach in front of him while she's wide awake. And they ripped out his kid, beheaded the baby, and then killed him. And left his wife to bleed to death. The Khawarij were wreaking havoc in the land. So one might argue, from a historical overview, maybe some sort of chaos or extreme approach was needed in order to handle these things, right? This is where we know that later generals, very fearful generals, become the khulafa, and they're brutal, Hajjaj and others. This is all a byproduct of the Khawarij losing their damn minds. I mean, there's hundreds of cases of them capturing Sahaba and Tabi'een and torturing, like putting on shows of torturing these people. Tamam? So, I mean, would one argue that maybe this type of harshness was needed to repel this chaos and chaotic behavior? Tamam? And I see Hassan in the chat, he's saying like, he did things irrationally. Yes, of course he did. No one's saying that he didn't. People challenged him and he went crazy with things. Although historically I might say there's another problem on the ground too. And that was, well, that's just called, like their form of ISIS. What I mean was, you had the Khawarij were terrorizing the Muslims. You know what they did to some of the Sahaba, right? Like one of the Sahaba, he was traveling, I forget who it was, Ibn al-Azraq? Allah, I forget his name. But he was traveling from Mecca to Baghdad with his wife. And they stopped him and they said, are you with Ali and Muawiyah and the thing? And he was like, yo, they're long gone. Like, what's happening? And his wife was pregnant. She was like in her 6th month. So they cut open her stomach in front of him while she's wide awake. And they ripped out his kid, beheaded the baby, and then killed him. And left his wife to bleed to death. The Khawarij were wreaking havoc in the land. So one might argue, from a historical overview, maybe some sort of chaos or extreme approach was needed in order to handle these things, right? This is where we know that later generals, very fearful generals, become the khulafa, and they're brutal, Hajjaj and others. This is all a byproduct of the Khawarij losing their damn minds. I mean, there's hundreds of cases of them capturing Sahaba and Tabi'een and torturing, like putting on shows of torturing these people. Tamam? So, I mean, would one argue that maybe this type of harshness was needed to repel this chaos and chaotic behavior? Tamam? Of torturing these people. Tamam? So, I mean, would one argue that maybe this type of harshness was needed to repel this chaos and chaotic behavior? Tamam? Allah al-Musta'an. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ilm. And at the end of the day, there's no reason for you and I to debate over Yazeed. Again, he was over 1,000 years ago. We don't benefit anything from him. We don't benefit anything from sitting down cussing him out. We don't. Our benefit or harm, right, comes from staying firmly with the Prophet ﷺ and the companions and the ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين به نستعين وصلى الله على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين وعجل فرجهم ولعن أعداءهم. So there is a Sunni Shafi'e Sheikh. This is how he describes himself. Of course, we are not holding our Sunni brothers and sisters responsible for the utterances of this person or this individual. He goes by the name of Sheikh al-Minhaji. This is how he calls himself on social media, especially on Clubhouse. So he was actually recorded in one of the clubhouse rooms making very, very heinous statements about the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and our beloved third Imam from the descendant of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, as Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I will actually pin the recorded statements that this fake Sheikh made against Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And as I've said, we know that this is not the position of our Sunni brothers and sisters. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, we know, are innocent from what this fake Sheikh has actually stated today. I don't want to take much time by playing the recording of his statements. So I pinned the recording. You can listen to it later. And where necessary, if we are uploading this video, we can actually insert the statements, the recording of his statements, into the upload. So just to briefly give you like an idea of really what was said without taking much of your time. This person condemned the grandson of Rasulullah, that's Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said, Yazeed, la'anahullah, may Allah curse Yazeed and whoever is defending Yazeed, said Yazeed did not kill Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said there is no evidence historically that he killed Hussein salawatullah alayhi. That the killing of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it was an independent act by the field commander, hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. That Yazeed himself did not make that order. The field commanders and soldiers are at fault. Then he asked, he said, is it worthy of takfir? He answered himself, he said, Hussein alayhi salam is not a prophet. So he can do takfir on those who killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That he does not do takfir for killing. Now, of course, before we go into the details and into the references, we just want to remind this person, of course, he is either a jahil or a kafir. It's one of the two or both of them. And of course, this is not our own statement. This is the verdict of his own scholars about those who love Yazeed and who defend Yazeed. And you'll get to see this when we actually provide the references. But in case this person, he doesn't know, maybe he has never read the Quran before, maybe we should remind him of Surah An-Nisa, verse 93. The list that can be said is that Yazeed is destined for Jahannam. Jahannam wa bi'sal masir. Of course, he also said that Yazeed sent an army to squash any rebellion when he was told by someone in the audience that Yazeed sent the army from Bilad al-Sham to Kufa or Karbala. He said, Yazeed sent an army to squash any rebellion. Does it necessitate killing? That's what he was asking. Then he quoted a hadith from Sahih Muslim, or the so-called Sahih Muslim. This hadith can be found in Muslim 1852c. The hadith says, it is attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, man atakum wa amrukum jami'un ala rajulin wahidin yuridu an yashukka asakum aw yufarriqa jama'atakum faqtuluh. The hadith says that Rasulullah said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, when you are holding on to one single man as your leader, you should kill who seeks to undermine your solidarity or disrupt your unity. Now, first of all, this is actually a very, very filthy statement for this so-called Sheikh to make. Why is it a filthy statement? Because there was no, if he wants to apply this on Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where's the ijma? Imam Hussein, according to this jahil, or maybe kafir, or both, according to him, Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not part of the ijma of the Muslims. Because the hadith clearly states, even if we want to accept that this hadith is sahih and we should apply it, it says, man atakum wa amrukum jami'un wahidin, that whoever comes to you while you are actually having ijma on one person and he wants to create this unity, he should be killed. Now on Yazeed, there was no unity. Where's the ijma on Yazeed ibn Muawiyah? There was no ijma. In fact, the condition for the truce of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam was that the khilafah, the rulership of the ummah, must be returned to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, or to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So first of all, his father imposed him upon the ummah. one of the opponents of Muawiyah in designating Yazid as his successor was Aisha. Another person was Abdul Rahman ibn Abu Bakr, the brother of Aisha. So, according to Minhaji, Abdul Rahman ibn Abu Bakr, he was wajib al-qatl. Yazid should have killed him. Abdullah ibn Zubair, who rose up in the Hijaz, he was also wajib al-qatl because he went against Yazid. And other Sahabas who did. For example, we will give you the statement of Abdullah ibn Handala. He said, we only rose against Yazid when we were actually apprehensive that Allah will throw stones at us from the heavens. Then he contradicted himself. Look at what also he said. He said, no one had the right to lay hands on Imam Hussein. Ya Jahil, you just quoted a hadith justifying the killing of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And now you said nobody had the right to lay his hands on Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So you justifying his killing. You believe he's right, Yazid was right to send an army from Bilad al-Sham to Iraq to squash any rebellion. But at the same time, nobody should lay a hand on Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What kind of contradiction is this? Clear evidence contradiction. Because he's talking nonsense. Then he said, at worst, Yazid was a lousy ruler who panicked when people revolted and made a few bad judgments. Yani Yazid, he's a baby. He's panicking, subhanallah. Yazid is a baby, innocent baby. He gets, panic attacks, subhanallah. How can this man, utter this statement? Then he said, to say Yazid was bad or good, we don't have historical context to back up these claims. In other words, this man, he's sitting on the fence. He doesn't know. Haram, miskin minhaji, min Yazid, or which I think we should give him a new name. He doesn't know, miskin. He doesn't know Yazid. Was he bad? Was he good? La, we don't have evidence. Well, we will see. We will get to that. We will see what his own scholars, he claims to be a Shafi'i. He claims to be Ash'ari. We will see what the Ash'ari have said. The shuyukh, the imams of the Ash'ari, what they have said about Yazid the Mal'un, la'natullahi alayh. Then he went on to say, he said, what happened was a long time ago, over 1,000 years. We need to focus on our akhirah. Maybe, Yawm al-Qiyamah, when Allah wants to judge this la'in, this mal'un, he will tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, when Iblis disobeyed you and he sinned against you, that was a long time ago. Ya Allah, what do I have to do with Iblis? You see the mantiq? Or the illogic. This is not logic. There's the illogic of this ghabi, jahil, kafir. He's justifying, and I'm calling him a kafir. It's not my verdict. This is the verdict of Ibn Hajar. This is the verdict of his own shuyukh. And we will show that, inshallah. We will show this, first of all, in order to absolve our Sunni brothers, because we don't believe this is the Sunni position. We are not holding our Sunni brothers responsible. This is not the position of our Sunni brothers. Now, for somebody, he calls himself a Sheikh. For somebody in front of lay people to be panel beating the image of Yazid, this is something we will not keep quiet about. We will not keep. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a red line. Whichever tongue tries to, utter falsehood on the matter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we cannot keep quiet. Then, of course, he lied. He said Ibn al-Hanafiya, as the brother of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he was the mufti of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, la'natullah ala Yazid, and upon the father of Yazid. He mentioned other issues relating to some other topics. He made some other statements about the issue of hadith, the issue of wudu. This is all not important for us to respond to this, side topics. If we're going to respond, this will come later. The focus is on the issue of Yazid, la'anahullah. At a time when we are witnessing Karbala, a form of Karbala in Gaza, this la'in mal'un, he's praising Yazid. Yazid is innocent, just like if somebody comes, he praises Netanyahu. So you know what? Netanyahu is innocent. He's not the one riding the planes to bomb Gaza. Netanyahu, he's miskin. He's sleeping in his house. Why do you hate Netanyahu? He's not the one, throwing the bombs on Gaza. The same logic, or the same illogic, the same nonsense. Then, when somebody asked him, the people who were with him, one of the brothers asked him, he said, did Muawiyah follow the accepted system to appoint his son? Yani, for example, he mentioned the Khulafa al-Rashidun. In other words, mainly the first three, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Osman. The brother asked him, he said, did Muawiyah follow any system to impose his son upon the Ummah? There was no one, before him who made it by inheritance. what did Minhaji actually respond? He gave a response that will destroy the foundations of Sunni Islam. Yani, wallah, I don't know, is this man a Khariji? Is he a Murji? Is he a Zindiq? What exactly is this man? Yani, even by Sunni standards, nobody will actually make such a statement. Wallah, I'm not trying, to be nice to our Sunni brothers, but wallah, no Sunni will actually make such a statement. What did he respond? He said, there is nothing in the Sunnah and in the Quran, or in the Quran and the Sunnah, that says it has to be this way or that way. Yani, there is nothing when it comes to leadership. Yani, this complete perfect religion does not guide us about, choosing our leaders. There is nothing about that. Then he gave the example about Dawood and Sulaiman. Ya akhi, how can you compare Dawood and Sulaiman with Yazid and Muawiyah? Ajib. So he actually proved that they don't have a system in Sunni Islam to choose the leader. So whatever system there was before, it was actually something that was bid'ah or something that was not shari. According to him, he said the Quran left it for the people to decide. Okay, if you want to make the claim that the Quran left it for the people to decide, then give us one hadith, give us one verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, they told us either in the Quran or the hadith that this amr, this command, this affair, Allah has left it for you. We need evidence. There is nothing also. So what he does, he elevated Muawiyah to the position of Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, and he uplifted or elevated Yazid to the position of Nabi Sulaiman. So Minhaj's prophet is Muawiyah, and the other prophet is Yazid for Minhaji. New two prophets, subhanallah. Said Sulaiman was the heir of Dawood. So this in the same way, Yazid and Muawiyah, it's the same thing. Then he made this another statement, very thunderous statement. He said there is nothing in Islam that could have prevented Yazid from taking over. We shall see what his scholars have said. If Yazid was actually eligible to be considered for this position to lead the Muslim Ummah. Was he eligible? We'll find out what his scholars have said. And people challenged Yazid, and he went crazy, mashallah, and then he started laughing. Then of course it didn't end with Yazid. He also justified Al-Hajjaj, both Yazid and Al-Hajjaj. He said their brutality was a byproduct of what the Khawarij did. That's going by the brutality of the Khawarij and the crimes they committed. So these tyrants, like Yazid and Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, these people, they actually arose in order to, put a stop. So this chaos can stop. I'm quoting him here. Let me quote him. He said, this type of harshness, that's of Yazid and Al-Hajjaj, was needed to repel the chaos and chaotic behavior. He said also, there is no need for us to debate over 1,000 years ago, or to debate Yazid, who lived about over 1,000 years ago. So we don't benefit from cursing him. Is this the position of the Quran? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it can be proven that Yazid is mal'oon by Allah and by his Rasul, and you say this mal'oon lived 1,000 years ago, or over 1,000 years ago, and there is no benefit to do la'na on him. Is this the position of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah is doing la'na after la'na in the Quran. Upon Iblis, upon the Fasiqeen, upon the Kafirin, upon the Munafiqeen, upon. Habibi, Allah is mentioning that Banu Israel, the bad people among Banu Israel, lu'inu ala lisani Dawood wa Isa. They are cursed upon the tongue of Dawood and Isa alayhi salam, or in the mouth of Dawood and Isa. Why is Allah mentioning this? Why is Allah telling us about people who lived 3,000 years ago, that they are mal'unin ala lisani Dawood wa Isa? Allah doesn't know your logic? You're smarter than Allah, ya kafir? Is this what you're teaching your followers? He said, our benefit is by staying with the Prophet, the Sunnah, and the ulama. Which ulama? Ulama like you? You stay with the Prophet and the Sunnah by actually whitewashing the image of a zindiq, kafir, mal'oon, khabis, like Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Somebody who shed the blood of Rasulullah. Somebody who disgraced the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And of course, like Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam said, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا, I have not seen except beauty. Because this, that Yazid thought he was disgracing the family of the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uplifted them. I will stop here with this introduction, and we will go inshallah into the evidence. Let's see what the scholars of Min Yazid, Min Haji, what they have actually said about Yazid ibn Muawiyah, la'natullahi alayh. I don't know if Sayyid wants to add anything.
No, also beautiful. Beautiful. Please continue.
Now, so we will go over what The scholars of Minhaji, they have actually said, and let's see if he's going against his scholars or not. We'll start with the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We'll start with an Ash'ari Imam. Not with, we're not talking about a Salafi. If we're talking about a Salafi, it's a different case. We'll start with Taftazani, Sa'ad al-Din al-Taftazani. Let me quickly pin his statement. I've done it, Sayyid. I'll leave it on. Thank you, Sayyid. So, Taftazani said, وعلى هذا القول لا توقف في لعن يزيد بكثرة أوصافه الخبيثة وارتكابه الكبائر في جميع أيام تكليفه. Said, we will not stop to do la'na upon Yazid due to his filthy attributes and him committing the great sins throughout his days when he was made a Khalifa. ويكفي ما فعله أيام استلائه بأهل المدينة ومكة. And enough is said based on what he did to the people of Medina and Mecca. فقد روى الطبراني بسند حسن اللهم من ظلم أهل المدينة وأخافهم فأخفه وعليه لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين لا يقبل منه صرف ولا عدل. الطبراني with a Hasan chain. يعني Taftazani, he's not only containing himself by mentioning the hadith, he's telling you بسند حسن. He's giving you the grading for the chain that At-Tabarani has mentioned. Or he mentioned this hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa said, whoever oppresses the people of Medina and he sends fear into them, may Allah give him fear, may Allah make him afraid. And the curse of Allah and the angels and the people all together are upon him. And none of his deeds will be accepted. And we know what Yazeed did to the people of Medina. He said also, Taftazani said, وَالطَّمَّةِ الْكُبْرَى مَا فَعَلَهُ بِأَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ. Said, and the greatest ugly act which Yazid did was against the Ahlul Bayt. وَرِضَاهُ بِقَتْلِ الْحُسَيْنِ. And his satisfaction with the killing of Hussein. وَإِسْتِبْشَارِهِ بِذَلِكَ. And him showing happiness when the news came to him. وَإِهَانَتِهِ لِأَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ. And insulting the Ahlul Bayt. مما تواتر معناه. This is mutawatir. Even if the details are ahad. So if Taftazani is actually making such a statement, who is this zindiq, jahil, to actually, say otherwise? Then Taftazani goes on to say, he said, لا نتوقف في شأنه بل في إيمانه لعنة الله تعالى عليه وعلى أنصاره وأعوانه. That we will not stop just at cursing Yazid, but we will question his iman. Yani, is he a Muslim? May Allah curse him. This is what Taftazani said. He said, لعنة الله عليه وعلى أنصاره وأعوانه. Yani, Taftazani is cursing Minhaji. So may Allah curse Yazid and his supporters and his friends. Then he goes on, this same page, he goes on to mention, he said, sorry, this quotation from Taftazani, by the way, is found in Tafsir al-Alusi, so I don't confuse people. This is found in Tafsir al-Alusi in volume 26, page 72. So this is al-Alusi that is quoting Taftazani. Then he also quotes as-Suyuti. وممن صرح بلعنه الجلال السيوطي وفي تاريخ ابن الوردي. So even Suyuti, I guess this guy will identify as a Sufi. He also approves doing la'na upon Yazid. Then he goes on to mention about when Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the head was brought to Dimashq and the women of the Ahlul Bayt. And Yazid was actually, he was happy. And he was reciting poetry. Wallah, we actually had so many references from Sunni scholars cursing Yazid that we actually lost, which to pick. And inshallah, we'll just select the main scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah just to demonstrate that this fake Sheikh, this Jahil, Ghabi, Kafir, Zindiq, he is not representing Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are innocent from the kufr that this Zindiq, Kafir uttered today against Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We are not, this is not the position of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This is why we are demonstrating that the heavyweights of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they cost Yazeed, la'natullahi alayh. And this stupid man, he is promoting Yazeed in front of lay people. Now, let's see what Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, another Ash'ari scholar, what he said about Yazeed ibn Muawiyah. This quote is from volume 1, page 96 of Al-Imta' bil-Arba'in al-Mutabayina al-Sima' of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Ibn Hajar said, it is written here about Ibn Hajar, he said, سئل شيخنا رحمة الله أو رحمه الله عن يزيد عن يزيد بن معاوية وماذا يترتب على من يحبه ويرفع من شأنه. So he said, it's mentioned here that the Sheikh was asked about Muawiyah, Yazeed ibn Muawiyah, and what is the ruling about the person who actually loves Yazeed ibn Muawiyah. He said, وأما المحبة فيه والرفع من شأنه فلا تقع إلا من مبتدع فاسد الاعتقاد فإنه كان فيه من الصفات ما يقتضي سلب الإيمان عمن يحبه لأن الحب في الله والبغض في الله من الإيمان والله المستعان. That loving Yazeed and elevating his position cannot come except from a mubtadi', a sinful innovator, who is fasid al-i'tiqad, whose aqidah is corrupted. فإنه كان فيه من الصفات, there were attributes in Yazeed ما يقتضي سلب الإيمان عمن يحبه. This negative attribute in Yazeed makes it obligatory for faith to be removed from the person who loves Yazeed, because loving someone is for Allah, and hating someone is for Allah, and this is from Iman. So according to Ibn Hajar, this Jahil Minhaji is a mubtadi', he's fasid al-i'tiqad, and he's following someone like Yazeed, whom Ibn Hajar described. He said, كان فيه من الصفات ما يقتضي سلب الإيمان عمن يحبه. يعني Minhaji is not someone who has Iman. Then the third reference, I will move on, is Al-Dhahabi. Shams al-Din al-Dhahabi, Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, volume 4, page 37. Dhahabi said, he, Yazeed, was a disgusting Nasibi. He hated the Ahlul Bayt. He drank and he did evil. So was Dhahabi, was he lying? Was Dhahabi, Shams al-Din al-Dhahabi, was he lying? So Yazeed was a disgusting Nasibi. He drank alcohol. He did evil. He started his kingdom with the killing of Shaheed al-Hussein alayhi salam. And he ended his rule with the incident of Al-Harra, that's the besiegement of Medina. And of course, we already mentioned the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, that whoever makes the people of Medina afraid, he actually terrifies them. He sends terror into their hearts. And he oppresses them. This person is cursed. This is a hadith from Sahih Muslim, which was earlier quoted. Then Dhahabi went on to say, hence the people hated him. He was not blessed in his life, and many took up arms against him after Al-Hussein alayhi salam, such as the people of Medina. They rose for the sake of Allah, subhanallah. Al-Dhahabi is telling you that the people of Medina, they rose against Yazeed for the sake of Allah. Yani, if this guy was a Muslim, Dhahabi, why would he actually accept? He's a Salafi. He's supposed to, give you the hadith that, if the ruler is oppressive and he flocks your back and he takes your property, you should be patient and you should be obedient. You should not rise. Apparently, Dhahabi considers this man to be a non-Muslim, to be a kafir. That's why he's justifying rising against Yazeed ibn Muawiyah. Then we go to Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir said, Abu al-Faraj ibn Jawzi wrote a separate book deeming it permissible to curse Yazeed. This is from Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, volume 8, page 245. I don't know. Let me try to pin this. I think Sayyid, I don't know if Sayyid was pinning the other ones.
No, I didn't say that I was going to do it, but I thought I'd leave you to it, because that way I don't want to. I can do it if you want me to.
No, thank you, Sayyid. So this is from Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, and Ibn Kathir is quoting Abu al-Faraj ibn Jawzi that he wrote a separate book deeming it permissible to curse Yazeed ibn Muawiyah. We go to Al-Minawi in his book Fayd al-Qadir. He also mentioned, he said, Abu al-Faraj ibn al-Jawzi stated in his book Ar-Rad ala al-Muta'assib al-Anid al-Mani' min Dhammi Yazeed. The title of the book is Response to the stubborn fanatical person who is against condemning Yazid. Abu al-Faraj ibn al-Jawzi mentioned that the pious scholars allowed cousin Yazid. قال أبو الفرج بن الجوزي في كتابه الرد على المتعصب العنيد المانع من ذم يزيد أجاز العلماء الورعون لعنه. The God-fearing scholars, pious scholars, they allowed cousin Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So, who is Minhaji? We come to Al-Alusi. Alusi has numerous statements. For example, in his hadith, Ruh al-Ma'ani, we start with page 72, page 73, we go to page 73, and then page 78. Al-Alusi, on page 72, he actually quotes the hadith about the one who terrifies the people of Medina. And he uses this as a case for Qasim Yazid. And this is a reliable hadith. And of course, there's another hadith in Bukhari, 1870. Whereby it's mentioned about the sanctity of the city of Medina. This hadith is narrated from Imam Ali, or attributed to Imam Ali in Bukhari, 1870. He said, Medina is a sanctuary, and whoever innovates in it, or commits a sin, or gives shelter to such an innovator in it, will incur the curse of Allah. This is another proof. Yazid was a mal'oon. He was cursed. Al-Alusi is using this case about the way he ransacked and desecrated the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. He's using this case to say this man is a mal'oon. La, bas, this khabis, minhaji. He said there are no historical accounts. He doesn't know. Miskin. He doesn't know that there are actually lots and tons of evidence that Yazid is actually mal'oon. He doesn't know. Miskin minhaji.
Can you give him mass transmitted reports on it, if you don't mind saying? Can you read what's just been pinned?
Sorry, I didn't get your point.
I said that he doesn't find evidence on it, even though it's massively transmitted in his books. Can you read the source I just pinned?
Definitely, Sayyid. Definitely. Wallah, ajib. This is 2023. We actually still arguing whether Yazid was a mal'oon or he was not a mal'oon. Was he evil? Was he not evil? Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Now we go to page 73. The same link, the same book. Tafsir Ruh al-Ma'ani of Al-Alusi. That's volume 26, page 73. He said, when he was actually giving commentary on verses 47, 22 to 23, he wrote his views about Yazid ibn Muawiyah, la'anahum Allah. He said, and I say what is prevalent over my mind, that Yazid al-Khabis al-Tarid did not testify to the messengership of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. According to me, it is correct to curse a person like Yazid, although one cannot imagine a fasiq like him, and apparently he never repented. The possibility of his repentance is weaker than the possibility of his faith. Along with Yazid ibn Ziyad ibn Sa'ad and his group shall also be included. Verily, may Allah's curse be upon all of them, their friends, their supporters, their group, and upon everyone who inclines towards them until Yawm al-Qiyamah, and until an eye sheds a tear for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he cursed Minhaji. And this is Mahmud al-Alusi. He's also cursing Minhaji. These are your scholars, ya Ghabi. They are cursing you. Ya Hmar. You pretending to be a Sheikh. You think by praising a mal'oon, you're actually spiting the Shia? No. You are actually spiting the Sunnis before spiting the Shias. Because Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not just the grandson of the Shia prophet. He's the grandson of the Prophet of Islam and the Muslims. Alusi, on page 78, same volume 26, in Tafsir Ruh al-Ma'ani, he stated, so what will you say about the damned Yazid? Did he love or hate Ali? Karram Allah wajhah. This is what he's saying. I assume you will not have any doubt that Yazid, curse be upon him, had a strong hatred against Ali radiallahu anh, and also against both of his sons Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, may blessings and peace be upon their grandfather, parents, and upon them. Therefore, as proven from mutawatir hadith, it becomes apparent to say that he, the accursed one, was a hypocrite. That's Yazid. La'natullahi alayh. Then we will give this man a Sufi reference. There's a book called الإتحاف بحب الأشراف of Jamal al-Din al-Shibrawi. He's quoting another scholar, someone he calls Al-Allama al-Ajhuri. He said, Imam Muhammad bin Arafah and the scholars who followed him chose to consider Hajjaj as kafir, and there is no doubt that the crime of Al-Hajjaj is similar to the crime of Yazid. But no, the crime of Al-Hajjaj is less than the crime of Yazid. So, he was presenting justification for the behavior of Al-Hajjaj and Yazid, for the tyrants. He said, this is a byproduct of what the Khawarij did. The Khawarij, they committed so much chaos, so many, atrocities, that, it was incumbent upon this tyrant for them to actually instill discipline in the community, to stop the chaos. But look at what your scholars are saying. Al-Hajjaj was considered a kafir, and his crime is even less than the crime of the other kafir, Yazid ibn Muawiyah, la'natullahi alayh. We go to another Sunni scholar, the author of Hayat al-Hayawan, Sheikh Kamaluddin Muhammad bin Musa al-Dumairi, or al-Damiri. He said, as for cussing him as Yazid, there are two types of statements from the Salaf as-Salihin. Of course, this book is from Al-Hayawan al-Kubra, and it is volume 2, page 306.
Open it.
Okay, Sayyid. Thanks. So, this Sheikh, he said, as for Qasim Yazid, there are two types of statements from the Salaf as-Salihin. Then he mentioned the Imams of the four Madahib. He mentioned actually three. He said Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. One statement is with tasrih, as to cuss him by mentioning his name. And the other one is with talwih, that it is indicative, that is to cuss him without mentioning his name, and only by using hint. For example, may Allah curse the killers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said, these three Imams, Abu Hanifa, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Malik, he said there are two ways, either tasrih or talwih. Then he goes on to give his own position. He said, but according to us, there is only one statement in Qasim Yazid, which is the tasrih, that's openly mentioning his name, not the talwih. And why should that not be the case, since Yazid used to play the game of hunting, cheaters, chess, and always used to be drunk with alcohol. And he had a poetry regarding alcohol. He said, as Yazid said, I say to my friends who have been gathered by the alcohol and the warmness of romance are calling in rhythm to take your portion of bounties and enjoyment, because every person shall die, no matter how long his age is. Thus, do all kinds of enjoyment you want to do in this short time span. MashaAllah. This is Yazid ibn Muawiyah, the Imam of Minhaji al-Zindiq al-Kafir al-Kabir. He's making poetry for alcohol. Subhanallah. But we don't have enough evidence, historical evidence, to condemn Yazid. Subhanallah. Is this a sheikh? Is this a sheikh? Is this how a sheikh speaks? Subhanallah. Now we go to another scholar of the Ash'ari, al-Haythami, Ibn Hajar al-Makki al-Haythami. In his book called Al-Minah al-Makkiyya fi Sharh al-Hamziyya, page 519. Ibn Hajar al-Makki al-Haythami, he said, Yazid reached the worst level of corruption and moral degeneracy, to the point that committing evil actions had become the norm. This was to such an extent that Ahmad ibn Hanbal declared him a kafir. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Imam of the Hanabila, called him a kafir. Then he went on to say, given that Ahmad ibn Hanbal is highly knowledgeable and a scholar of high integrity, he will only issue such statements on account of the actions perpetuated by Yazid that will thus prove such a statement. Subhanallah. But according to Minhaji, we don't have enough information whether Yazid was good or bad. Yani, it's either Minhaji is the donkey or Ahmad ibn Hanbal was a donkey. There's no two way about it. We need to know, who was right and who was wrong. Was it Minhaji defending Yazid or Ahmad ibn Hanbal calling Yazid a kafir? We want to know. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah have to choose. Is it this so-called Shafi'i Sheikh defending Yazid who is right, or Ahmad ibn Hanbal calling Yazid a kafir who was actually right? We need to know. We go on to a hadith that is reported from Hassan al-Basri. This hadith is found in the book that was earlier mentioned from Ibn al-Jawzi, Al-Rad ala al-Muta'assib al-Anid al-Mani' min Dhammi Yazid, page 58. He mentions a hadith from Al-Hasan al-Basri, the Tabi'i. Al-Hasan al-Basri, and by the way, this hadith is sahih. The sanad of this sahih from al-Basri, Al-Hasan al-Basri, it is reliable. Yani they cannot deny this. Al-Hasan al-Basri said, Yazeed bin Muawiyah was hitting the head of Imam Hussein with a stick. The same place that the Messenger of Allah used to kiss. How shameful. This is the statement of Al-Hasan al-Basri. I've already given about 11, 12, maybe 13 views of scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I think for now this is enough. Because wallah, I can keep going and going and going, bringing statements, bringing hadiths from the ulama of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah to prove that this person that Minhaji was whitewashing, he was a kafir, and there is no doubt about it. I can show you the statement of As-Suyuti, who called him a kafir, who did la'na on him. So many scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. How exactly should we as Muslims, we are not talking here, as Shias, we're talking as Muslims, generally. What should we say to this person? Have we gotten to the level of degeneracy whereby we are defending Yazid ibn Muawiyah? Has it come to that? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن أعداءهم والحمد لله رب العالمين.